Happy Sunday. Welcome back to Retake the Week. It has been a rather busy 7 days. We're in prime season right now. We got small events, big events, in between events, all shapes and sizes of events going. But before we get into the full retake of this week, we need to do the formalities. This show is brought to you by the members of my channel. They, of course, get access to a bunch of cool stuff like interviews with people behind the scenes content from just this show. They also get access to members-only demos. They get access to the members-only Q&A, which has been delayed a week due to logistics. Let's put it that way. And of course, they get special access to videos early. I'm probably missing out something because I've loaded up all the perks onto one tier of membership, but it's fine. Quack, you also have some things to promote, I believe, this week. What's going on with you?
Yeah, we didn't end up putting Lead Speak out. It is going to be out soon enough. I don't have any more guest hints, but it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be a nice. It's gonna be more of a nice chat. Like it's gonna be less of a. It's gonna be less of a like. Oh wow, we're sitting down with a legend to talk about an amazing career. It's more like this is a nice chat about some interesting topics. So more of a something to do while folding laundry maybe. Probably out this week. And then not much else. I've been working a lot. August wrapped up. August has been a ridiculously productive month for me in terms of Dust 2. Right now, since yesterday, we have a compilation of all of the Swedish players' hours on Steam for the past 2 weeks out, which was actually pretty big. Because some of them have very little and some of them have quite a lot. All of the new Godsend players, for example, I think they had 3 players in like above the 110 hour mark, which is like top 5 out of any of the Swedish pros that we could find. It was quite hard to find all these hours. I had some help, of course, but yeah. And later today, I think it's going to be out by the time you upload this. If it isn't, it's going to be out soon enough. I'm probably going to put something out about a fun little cheating incident that a friend of mine sent to me, which was interesting. It was somebody who claimed they wrote their own cheats for Counter-Strike and actually linked to a public GitHub account with several repos with Counter-Strike cheats, which was amazing because it had screenshots and like he spoke very openly about writing his own cheats and using them. So yeah, that's going to be a thing. And he had one line. He had one line which I'm not going to put it here. It's an interesting line which about like how to write cheats, which I don't know if it's true, but if it's true, that's like I don't know. To me, it paints VAC in a very bad light because like in that case, it's very simple to bypass VAC. So yeah. Anyway, that should be up on Dust 2 Sweden. If not already, then soon enough.
All right.
Use Google Translate.
A lot of reading to do with
Yeah.
your articles coming out. But yeah, with all that in mind, let's get into the first thing, which is the biggest event, I think, of the week. Grand final is today. It's going to be a best of 5. It starts around midday. And that's going to be BetBoom Dacha, Belgrade, Season 2. A bit of an odd event when you look at it, because it's a play-in, and then it's just straight into an 8-team double-elim playoff bracket. But at least it is a fairly legit event in that sense. Like, the results should be pretty solid. And we've got a surpriser. A surprise finalist, is what I mean to say, in Eternal Fire, who initially go down to the lower bracket after losing 2-0 to Mouse. Fairly comfortable as well, that match, if I remember correctly. It just looked like a team from a class above, just coming down, stomping a little bit, moving on. But Eternal Fire beat Heroic, beat Furia, beat Pain to make it through to the consolidation final where they faced Mouse and this time beat them 2-0. Changed their map pick to Nuke. I believe that was their change. No, they changed to Dust 2, apologies. Which I think is just a map they should be good at, but they haven't really been historically. So the fact they pick it here into Mouse and win it, I think is going to be good for them in the future. And then able to upset on Nuke in overtime, which is all really cool for Eternal Fire, but it does feel like a bit of a choke job from Mouse, especially given the nature of that loss on Nuke. We really do expect a little more from them, don't we? Especially in a smaller event like this.
Yeah, I think yeah, I think it's an interesting event for sure. I'm sorry, were you talking about Eternal Fire or Mouse? Because I could have sworn I heard both names there.
Both. So Eternal Fire's run, and then they beat Mao's, and I'm talking about Mao's
Yeah,
choke job. Like,
I was like, which team should I talk about? Like, yeah, Eternal Fire made a great run. They came in as the bottom ranked team, which makes it all the more impressive that they actually make it all the way to the final. I think this is the Eternal Fire that, it's nice to see that this peak still exists. This peak where, like, yes, Eternal Fire can be probably, like, single event performances, they can be a top 10 level team, which I think we've seen in the past occasionally. I think they weren't too far off from Katowice playoffs. They were in major playoffs. And that was kind of like, I feel like they kind of deserved to be there. Like, it was hard to put anyone else like firmly out of it. So, um, and like we've seen it at events, and then they've slowly dropped off. And I think, at least for myself, I was starting to question, like, does this team still have that, or or are we going to see another event performance at some point, which sort of speaks highly of them. This might be it. It's not the biggest event. They took down only Maus so far in terms of properly top tier competition. They take down 17, 16, 14 ranked teams, and then they take out Maus, which was a nice one, actually, for them. Sucks for me, but yeah, it was nice for them. Yeah, I think it's nice. I think it's nice for them that they kind of get back to that level of performance, to be like,
because they have
to
some good
be able
events
to
coming
swing
up.
it.
Like they have qualified for what's it called, Pro League season 20. They're in IM Rio, and they will be at the Europe RMR as well, obviously given their ranking. So it's great to see a swing of form from them. Maybe we'll get to see a more dangerous, more threatening version of them, because we saw Woxic actually play really well in this event. It wasn't just the Xantares carry job that we've kind of come to expect. Woxic has been really solid. So I've been
we talked
happy with it.
we talked a couple of weeks ago that we thought maybe this roster, like, their run was done and they need roster changes to get better, but like, this is maybe a sign that actually maybe they can do something still. So let's see what they do at EPL. Like, EPL is going to be pretty big for a lot of teams.
Yes, I
think
they're in Group A or Group B, because I picked them in the double swing, the episode with Thorin that I'm sure everyone has seen, because it's got the most views of any video this year. Comfortably. But the group is definitely escapable for them. If you look, they are technically like in the lower half of the ranked teams on HLTV, but when you compare who those teams actually are above them, like Heroic, NIP technically rank ahead of them still. As time of recording, I'm sure the next ranking update on HLTV will have that changed. But they are definitely in with a shout for getting out Group A, and potentially with like one of the, I want to say, top 3 seeds, maybe even top 2 if they can get that win over FaZe in the upper semi. So yeah, Eternal Fire currently a team to follow.
A FaZe upset, entirely possible.
I
think I mean, the way FaZe are looking, I think they could make it out in one of the bottom seeds, I think, honestly, the way FaZe are looking.
FaZe should make it out, right? But it's rough to predict.
They should, but
number 1, yeah.
I could absolutely see them making it out through like the lower bracket or last chance stage if they just lose, one of those games that they really shouldn't lose. Sangal, like, I talk so much about Sangal, but Sangal are coming off a boot camp, and I feel like FaZe are exactly the kind of team who they kind of thrive on the elimination series a bit more than the opening series. So I could absolutely see Sangal coming in with some, crazy prep. We're talking about a different event now, but I could absolutely see that happening and knocking FaZe down. I could see the same thing for Eternal Fire, just knocking them down in the second game, if that's what happens. That's a different event. Eternal Fire played a good game. Mouse played a horrible game. I don't like at all how this is looking for Mouse, to be honest. I think they did manage to get, like, it's a Gym show again. He's like the big game player, but even when they lose. But I do think they got a good level out of Torji, like a decent enough level.
Yeah.
Which is something that has been talked about as like being one of their big weaknesses, why they sort of fall short sometimes. So,
well, it's not so much the Torji performance level. I mean, often we fixate on like who's choking on this team. Who do I need to perform to win? And one of the big names for me and for a lot of people is Xerxan. And in that game, Xerxan is not just bad; he's horrible. He's absolutely horrendous. I'm just going to check the exact numbers, but I know he did not
0.69.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about his opening kill numbers, like in terms of win-loss, because he's going to be taking a lot of those really key fights. And against a team like Eternal Fire, you got to take the right fights and you got to win them. And we see here, yeah, he loses out massively. Xantares dominates. Wicadia dominated him. He didn't get an opening kill against Woxic or Calyx the entire series. A 1-1 against Major. Like, yeah, he had a rough go of it, and that's going to be a really limiting factor when you're facing a team like Tonify. If your opening sort of rifle guy can't get it going, you're going to struggle. But enough on these teams. We need to focus on, I think there's one more storyline I think I want to pick up on quickly before wrapping up this event, because the grand finals today, Spirit Tunnel Fire, should be a boring final, should be a 3-0 for Spirit. But
should be.
One other team that kind of has made some headlines based on this event, based on some interviews, is Pain. And the problem I have is that they haven't really done anything surprising to me in the whole BetBoom Dacha run. Like, they're playing games. They beat BetBoom. Pretty predictable, honestly. They beat 9Z. That's a domestic matchup for them. They've been winning on LAN recently, and that's good to keep that up, but it's not, again, that special. Then at the event itself, they beat Heroic, who were in a massive slump. They beat Verse Pro, who are on a massive downswing. Still impressive for them, I guess, like for themselves, to say they beat this big a team with these big names. But it's not really that big a deal in terms of the actual Counter-Strike being played, because VP have been horrible of late. Truly dreadful. And then they lose to Mouse and lose to Eternal Fire to go out. So it's not actually that great a run. So I've seen a bit of overexcitement about them. I'm not fully sold on them being even like top 10 worthy right now. And the idea of them being top 5 in future seems quite silly to me based on just this roster. But hey, they're excited. They've got a few wins. They've got a few placements. They've got more events coming up. So maybe they can show more in the future.
2025 can definitely change what we mean when we mean top 10 and top 5. Because what I think is the reason why people might be somewhat up on Pain is that every time they show up in a tier 1 event, they do have some upset games. But the only thing is we've only had them in tier 1 events 3 times this year, which was this one, Cologne, where they were 1 game off playoffs, and Copenhagen, where they were 1 game off playoffs. They, like, at all of those events, they sort of beat out the teams that sit in like the 10 to 15 range on the ranking, and then they lose to the ones who sit in the 10 to 1 range. So I think, you know, teetering on the edge of top 10, I think, is a fair assessment of this team whenever they get to play tier 1 events. And the thing is, like, if they can stay at that level ranking wise, they are going to start showing up in a lot more tier 1 events next year, and that's when we're going to see, are these guys actually good, or, you know, has this just been, you know, a couple of fluke events? Because that's hard to say right now. Yeah, with, you know, all of their like when you say, oh, they're going to be a future top 5 team, like, no, they won't. But that's because that's, like, in large part, maybe not entirely, but in large part because all of the other teams competing to be top 5, like the realistic top 5 contenders, get invited to every single event of the year. So that's like bit of a different thing. But yeah, I think the main thing why I can't really put them that high solidly right now is because it, you know, going over the year, it's not even clear to me if they are the best team in Brazil, like, or in South America. Like, they probably are right now, but like, Furia still exists, as much as, you know, they are on a downfall. They still exist, and I don't think they're too far off Pain in that regard. I think 9Z on some events this year have arguably been ahead of Pain, which is not a huge stretch to say. And I think even teams like MIBR or Imperial are still pretty fucking dangerous whenever they show up in these bigger events. We've had upsets from both of those, and we've had good performances out of both of those teams at various events of various scale. Not at the same level as, like, almost making Cologne and major playoffs in the same year, but, you know, still a good level. So, like, when you can't even really separate, like, for parts of the year, 9Z have definitely been ahead of Pain, and Furia have definitely been ahead of Pain for different parts of the year. So when you can't even properly separate a team out of their own region, it's very hard to put them into the, like, solidly into the top 10 of the world. So because I am not ready to put 9Z or Furia in the top 10, in the proper top 10 conversation. So
I mean, I'm struggling to put Furia in the top 20 at this point, or top 30, because they are so bad.
Yeah.
It's horrifying. So
yeah, but then it's like, I think that might be why they have an interesting record when it comes to tier 1 events, but they just don't play a lot of them, and they don't like they're not at the level like 9Z who managed to string together a bunch of really good wins in a row to make a very high placing in Sydney or Dallas, right? And
Yeah,
maybe
9Z
even
got a
one other
good run at
event after
Dallas.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they, Pain don't even do that. They have the 1 or 2 upset games and then they get eliminated. And they finish like 1 spot above where you would predict them to finish pretty
At
much every
best, yeah.
time. But those games also look good. Like those games always look pretty damn good. So like it's if they can do that consistently, I don't think it's a stretch to say they can be top 10. But the thing is that you could say that about 30 teams, like pretty much all the top 30 teams. Yeah, if they string together their best game performance more consistently, then yeah, they might be able to crack top 10 as well. So it's yeah, it's
It's
a
a
bit
pretty
of
empty
hyperbole
statement.
perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's coming from their own mouths, the whole top 5 thing, and I'm just saying, I don't believe in it. But let's move on. Let's talk about the Blast Showdown, which we need to recap briefly because we touched on the opening game matchups last week. That's all that had been played. The rest of it played out this week, finishing Wednesday, and most of it went fairly predictably. FaZe beat Pain, right on topic, losing Inferno in overtime, but winning the other 2 maps 13-5. Not really that much of a struggle. And then took care of OG 2-0, 13-8, 13-8, because OG at that point, it's nice that they upset Heroic. But speaking of teams on a downturn, not really that big a deal. Beat Amcal, who, yes, beat NIP in the ugliest series of the year, but again, are not that threatening a roster. So nice for OG, I guess, to get some reps in. But FaZe, yeah, handled them. The real interesting conversation comes with Falcons, who beat M80, get a matchup with Complexity, who are a team most of us would pick to beat Falcons, but it's one of those things where they're such closely, like, not just ranked, but just perceived teams in terms of their overall quality. Like, you know that Falcons lack firepower. You know, Magisk, Dupree, Madden, all of these guys are not exactly heavy hitters right now. But they play such a solid style, have a really good IGL, and some Pius, when he's on, he's on. So they've got a chance in this series, typically puncher's chance. But they take care of that 2-1. Not a bonkers series from Elige, I'm sure that helps. And then beat the flailing Virtus Pro to make it through. So Falcons kind of upset the odds here. Not many people, I think, had them going all the way through. But they do. And so FaZe and Falcons will be going to the Blast Premier Fall Final 2024. Finishing off that event team list. Looking interesting, that event.
Yeah, I think Falcons making it through is quite interesting. I would not have put them to do that.
Yeah.
Of course, and I think they might be a little bit odd one out when it comes to fall final.
And I think Astralis are
Um,
also a bit of a... Because Astralis are there, Liquid are there. These are teams that I'd consider... I'm not saying they're on the same level exactly as Falcons, but I'm just saying they're also teams that I don't truly believe in right now. Astralis especially, given how they've played this year. This season since the break. I don't have that much to believe in them as
yeah,
like a real top 10 team. Like, there's a reason no one picked them when they could on the double swing. Like, in the latest episodes. Like, they're not actually that good to watch right now.
I don't think I could pick 8 teams out of the groups though, which should be like, or even 6 teams like who should have qualified in terms of level. I think it's Navi, Spirit, Vitality, G2, and then everybody else. Like FaZe probably should have, but they didn't, and then they made it through ShowDown. Virtus Pro shouldn't. Astralis maybe shouldn't have gone through groups, but like everybody they played definitely shouldn't have gone through. So it's it makes sense to hear. And then Falcons end up here as well, which is their side of the bracket was a little bit meh. I feel like there's nobody here. I mean, again, VP is the one who should go through, but they're also dog shit right now.
Yeah, we all
So
know that, yeah.
I mean, who else other than Falcons in that case? Complexity or Big? And I
It's
don't think
it's
either one should be in fall final.
it's complexity, and complexity we know when Elige plays at his like basically his best games. Because this year he's had a really good season, really good year. But he's not at a 1.4 rating, like destroying everyone every single match. If he was in that sort of form, yeah, they are considered probably a top 10 team in that sort of vein and should be making, mincemeat of Falcons. But he wasn't that sharp in that one specific series. Falcons beat them and go on. I think it's a It's a very big Elige factor in Complexity's results and ranking. If he's off, they're like number 20. If he's on, they're like number 10. Like I think that's how big the swing is between their best Elige games and the rest of this mess of a roster.
What's up with VP, by the way? Like, can we actually pin this on anything? Like, why are they suddenly dog shit?
Well, they can't get, for love nor money, a multi-frag out of most of their players, which was historically a Falcons problem, just because their players were shit. But Verse Pro, their players aren't shit. They're not, past their primes. They're historically pretty damn tasty. But if you see, like,
most of them are major champions.
Yeah, aren't all of them?
Yeah, all of them are. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but the problem is, like, Flit doesn't look like he's like his old self, like he's playing in prime form. Fame, they have trouble setting him up in the right way, because when you give him duels, like we've seen matches even recently where you give Fame the right duels, he's gonna win them. He's gonna carry you through like a few maps if you just set him up right. But I don't think he's playing comfortable spots. They've had to prioritize integrating electronic and making it work with Flit, and it's just really not working. Yeah, I think it's still this weird sort of system issue where they just haven't got it right. Whatever it is, they haven't figured it out, and it's really fucking over their riflers.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I hope they can get it back together. This roster was supposed to be really damn good, and I'm still rooting for Fame, obviously. One of the first prospects, if not the first official prospect, I think, from way back in the day. So, always rooting for that guy. He's won a major, but come on. I want more. I'm greedy. Give me some more.
Yeah.
All right, up next, we got a bit of a weird story. There was the Asia RMR closed qualifier this week, or open qualifier, or qualifier of some kind. Asia RMR regional qualifiers, that's what it was, regional qualifiers. And some of them, I believe, had an open qualifier to get to them.
All of them did, but it was it was all of the closed qualifiers for the Asian RMR.
And of course, the significant one. Yeah, we have the full team list, but the significant one that everyone sort of noticed or was forced to fucking pay attention to, because I couldn't go 15 seconds on Twitter or Reddit or anywhere else without seeing this team pop up, is Drillas. Drillas, who made it through the Levant and North Africa qualifier to get here. Technically didn't even make it out first of that event, but first and second go through, so did third, actually. But more importantly, they played in the Middle East RMR close quali. They had to win the event to go through the RMR, and they did. Now, some people were questioning how on earth this roster counts for the Middle East, because if you look on paper, it's a French flag, 2 Ukrainian flags, and then 2 Israeli flags. And that looks like a European team, but basically what happens is Haji has the correct passport. He has I believe he holds a Moroccan passport or Algerian passport. Moroccan, is it? I'm correct on that,
he's
right?
Moroccan. Yeah, he's Moroccan, yeah.
He holds a Moroccan passport despite flying the French flag as well. So he's able to make them eligible for the Middle East / Asia sort of region. That's how they are allowed to play. But realistically, when you look at this roster on paper, I saw them assemble and I heard what the aspiration was. I was like, this is a tad unfair. And it's going to be really nice for Waro and Kvem's stats to go play in this fucking quali. It didn't even end up being them who necessarily had the best numbers coming out of it. Even if, they do have really nice numbers. That's not the case. But like a lot of people end up fixating a bit on this Amsalam guy. He had a good showing. But needless to say, despite losing the opening BO1 to GGA, they swept the lower bracket, smashed Onyx Ravens in the top game, and yes, have qualified for the Asia RMR. So they've not made the major yet. They still need to get through this to get the stickers, which I believe is the end goal. It's just to get OhnePixel's face in the game. Not that he has an ego or anything, but it is statedly the goal of this team to put his face
more or less,
in the Counter-Strike game. Have you been able to avoid talking about this team all week? Or have you to write 3 articles about them?
No, it's I mean, it's a click magic. What can I say? It's it's interesting. He had Sponge and Harry come on a stream to cast the game while I was watching the final qualification game, which was honestly pretty cool because they like put in their A game, properly casting this game, this ancient game. But yeah, I didn't have them going through. I probably would have put my money on Gigi How or Nom to make it through. In terms of who is going to make it to
Whoa.
the RMR. So
Unfortunately, those guys do not have 3 European imports. So
might be the case. I mean,
never
yeah,
had
no,
money
they
on it.
no they played really well. I probably would I probably just would have said that partially because they've been together for a long time. They play some good stuff. I think if we got a better level out of Mini, maybe Gigi How could have gone a lot further because he was nowhere. Both of those teams also have 2 European imports, and they neither of them did anything. So like,
Hold
yeah,
on, hold on, hold on.
but
I
yeah.
need to point this out because I'm just realizing this now. I didn't look through the full team list and all the rosters. The Middle East
Mhm.
qualifier has become an absolute fucking farce. Super
Oh, what? Because
Kurs with Han and Kyojin, and then Doc,
yeah.
who I assume holds dual citizenship as well, are playing in this fucking thing. Let me just go through
Mm.
Is there anyone else just screw it, saying fuck it? I mean, TVS is playing for Bravado, but I don't count that.
Yeah, I mean the
Onyx
fact that
Ravens is
Bravado are here
Python
in
and Zixer. Like, what is this event now?
Bravado are here in the first place, despite being South African, which is quite a stretch from Middle East. But I guess they were like, we have one South
Well,
African
where
team.
else
We
would they
need to
put
put
them?
them somewhere.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. They played honestly much worse than I thought they would, especially TVS. I thought TVS would put up a better level in these games. Bigger, but yeah. I would say no, yeah, everybody like Onyx Ravens, they have Python and Sixer. And even they're both Pokemon and ARAM, I think have put up a pretty good level in the past. So like
I mean,
could
Pokemon,
have
I've seen
maybe
him play in like NA teams, I think, in the past.
he's been pretty much
No,
he was with Camel Riders and all of those guys.
no, was he in
Divine
NA?
Vendetta.
I think I'm thinking of a
No.
different Pakistani player.
You're thinking of Momo and Pluto.
Yes, that's who I'm thinking of. Thank you. No,
Yeah.
but okay, yeah, the Middle East qualifiers become a bit of a joke.
No, yeah, I mean, yeah, but everybody has Europeans because it's kind of close proximity. You can basically play a Middle East qualifier from Europe, especially
yeah,
Eastern Europe.
it
So
just feels
it's
silly.
not hard to put duplicate and Dennis Law into GG How and play this qualifier. But yeah, I wouldn't say that Drillas have a significant. I mean, they obviously have the best players. I think Warokvem and Haji are above
Far better.
players
Most of
like
these teams have imported pretty
yeah.
washed or like past
Uh,
it Europeans, like
oh yeah. Like they definitely have the
duplicate.
better Europeans, but basically every single other team had their best performers be a non-European. So like it's I mean except for Superfuckers, but they also have a decent European player in Harn. So it's yeah, I think
God,
I'm not sure they have a significant advantage in that sense, but they
come on. War 2K was leading teams to major playoffs. now he's playing against the fucking beasts that are
yeah.
Sixer,
All right, fair,
KD69Z, and
fair.
Dan1. Like, bro, you're
Yeah.
taking the
All right,
mic. Like,
fair. They did go through anyway, regardless of if I think they would or not. And they are in the RMR with
yeah, well,
OhnePixels.
they should get dumpstered at the RMR. Unfortunately for them, and fortunately, I think for the sanity of me, because imagine they
I
throw
think
together that team just to cheese the Middle East qualifier, and they make it through the Asia RMR. That'd be so obnoxious. But only
the
two
thing
teams.
the thing that
Oh, 3 teams make it out. Oh crap. Oh
yeah,
crap.
three. I was about to say the thing that might speak in to their favor here is that there are
Jeez.
3 teams making it through, and I think this one is going to run on like a double elimination bracket kind of system. So
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I think it's going to run on the same schedule as this Middle Eastern qualifier. So I think at most they need to win one, two, three, four, five different games. So I think they need to beat 4 out of the teams in this qualifier. They can definitely beat someone like GR. I think they can beat Alter Ego. I think they can beat Talon
I
on a
don't
good
think they
day.
can.
So
I
like,
don't think they can beat Alter Ego Talon. I think they can beat GR and Rare Atom. I don't have too many thoughts on, but actually, the Chinese teams don't seem that strong to me. But they're still
no,
going to be
yeah,
stronger than this mix of mess. Like,
there's also a Linvision now without Starry. How's that going to be? I don't really know.
it's Linvision without Starry, but it's Linvision who beat fucking Tyloo with Starry. So
Yeah. But I mean, Tyler losing. What's new?
Yeah, Tyloo's the fakest super team to come out of China in a while. Currently, on
Yeah,
current
for sure.
form. Just because
I, I'm
they
I'm
can't
I'm
seem
just
to
saying,
get it
like,
together.
we don't know a lot about Alter Ego or Talon. I have no fucking idea how they're gonna play. It's both of them are very new teams, so we don't actually really know what sort of form they're gonna show up in. This is also in November, so like everybody
Yeah.
here has so many opportunities for boot camping or like go to bigger events or play European events, whatever the fuck. So I could see
Yeah.
Drillas making top 4, and then I mean at that point you're just one game away. So like, I could see them making this happen. Honestly, if anybody is gonna lose, it's gonna be FlyQuest, and then it's gonna be Drillas beating FlyQuest to make the RMR or to make the
Yeah.
major, and that's gonna be something for OhnePixel to scream about, I assume.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure we'll get a new series of clips of
Like,
highly intellectual content that should
you're
appeal to
visualizing.
adult men.
I'm just saying, right now you are visualizing the FlyQuest Drillas game, and Drillas winning on like the third map and
Honestly, I'm
Alistair.
visualizing 13-0, 13-0, but
Yeah, whatever. Alistair, does nothing. 0.7 rating. Because that is what's gonna happen. Like, that's
no,
what's gonna happen.
he is
And
a
we're
piece
gonna
of shit.
have,
That's fair. Yeah.
yeah, and OhnePixel's face is gonna be in the game because FlyQuests suck. So,
I believe
yeah.
in our Aussie brethren. Guys, I roast you all year long. This is the one time a year you're supposed to not shit the bed. Like, I know you have recently.
Mm.
The last RMR, you didn't make it through. But now there's 3 slots. There's 3, even for you. 3 of 8. Like, you just got to be third of 8 and not put this guy's face in the game after he cheesed the Middle East
You're
qualifier.
gonna do it.
Like, oh,
You're
please
gonna do
don't.
it.
Oh god,
Right.
I've got to rely on some incredibly unreliable sort of teams to make this happen. But yes, let's move on
Yeah.
to the calendar announcements for the year.
Yep. This is a brief one.
It's been a
Today's
bunch of
the
stuff, right?
deadline. Yeah. Today is the deadline to announce tier 1 events for 2025. So the tier 1 calendar is going to be done. I think you can announce it today as well. So I think maybe we get some odd one out, maybe Relog decide they want to do something or whatever. Yeah, but everyone who wants to host a tier 1 event in 2025, they need to announce it today. So we've already had announcements from Yala, PGL, Sky Esports, and Fisher in that order. So we actually have and Star Series as well, which happened a while ago, which might have been a little bit forgotten. We have a fuck ton of events. Some of these months are absolutely fucking stacked. There's a new feature on HLTV, actually. If you go to the events tab on top and hover over it, you can get to the calendar view where you can see a much, like a bit more clearly which events are held in what months for the next couple of months. So we have, we have some busy months. April, May, and September are going to be stacked. I think there's not a huge amount of overlap between like the big events, but it's also going to be stuff like ESL have an event in November, like ending November 9th, and Blast's big event starts November 10th. So at that point, is that even going to be possible? Because I know that like you want to have at least a day's boundary between events, because media day is like the big thing, travel and media day. So I think what we are going to end up seeing, like stuff like ESL August 25, I think that's obviously Cologne, if I have my dates right.
Could be.
Unless it's the one before that. But yeah, August should be Cologne. The day after that is the Blast Open event in London. Sorry, in Copenhagen. What the fuck? Okay, I think HTV put the wrong thing in. It's called Blast Open London, but it's set to be in Copenhagen. Interesting. Yeah. And this is like one of, you want to be at both of these events probably if you're a tier 1 team, but at this point you're probably going to have to choose. At least if you're one of the ones who have, a good chance of making it through the full Cologne event, like making it to playoffs, then I think you definitely have to choose there. Actually, it might not be Cologne because I realized that event is only 2 days long. It might be the one prior, but either way, it's going to be some sort of big event. And there are some overlaps. Like Sky Esports have somehow scheduled all of their big events at the same dates as other big events, which are
Yeah,
definitely
they're not going to be
bigger and
true
have
tier
bigger
one
prize
events.
pools.
The Sky Esports stuff, like I don't know why
Yeah, no.
they've decided to put them. I think maybe it's because they want to offer prize pools that are tier one, like valid. That's why they've announced themselves as tier one events. I guess that must be why.
I think that might be it. They're quote unquote only offering $500,000, while all of the PGL events have over $1 million, and they also conflict with basically Star Series. Star Series is pretty much the only uh, other event organizer, and Blast's biggest event of the entire year conflicts with their $500,000 event. Fucking nobody's gonna go there. So
Yeah,
that's
$500,000 though.
interesting.
That's what qualifies for them to be tier one, right? Though, based on the Valve rules
Yeah,
and prize money, like to offer that much, you have to
yeah,
be tier one, isn't it?
yeah. So yeah, that's what they've done. We have some Yalla events, which are probably gonna sit. They're Middle Eastern. They're gonna sit at like 750,000 probably, something like that. We have a bunch of PGL events. We have going all around the world. We're going to Kazakhstan in May.
Oh, is it
Also,
Astana?
yeah, we're going to
Oh, that's
Astana,
sick.
ending on the 18th. The 19th, there's going to be an ESL event, which I think is going to be Dallas, unless they change up things way too quickly. So, who the fuck is going to go to Kazakhstan with the knowledge that literally the day after you have to play a game in Dallas across the fucking world? So, we're going to have some conflicts there. I'm assuming people are going to pick Astana because that's going to have the fucking major prize pool, which Dallas is not going to have. So,
Mm.
yeah, interesting. Yeah, because yeah, fucking Dallas is not gonna do that. Like Dallas is not gonna have a $1.25 million prize pool. So I mean, the big teams are gonna prioritize Astana. The interesting thing about this is that a lot of we're probably gonna see like some interesting prioritizations here, where big teams go somewhere else, which is gonna leave like the spots still need to be filled. So we might see stuff like the bottom top 30 teams being invited to events where you would realistically want to invite the top 16 teams in the world. So you might see stuff like, well, Spirit might decide to skip Astana. Actually, no, they wouldn't skip Astana. But let's just pick a random team who decide they are teetering on burnout. We'll say Navi maybe skip Astana, and Navi instead end up going to Dallas because that gives them like 2 weeks break or something. And then they go to Dallas. They're the literal only top 5 team in attendance, and they win the whole shebang. But at the same time, they also play against teams like Sandgull might get an invite to such an event, or teams like Aurora, whoever else. So that could actually be quite interesting for those of us who like those sort of events. A lot of these events also do not have open qualifiers. None of the PGL events have open qualifiers. None of the Fisher events have open qualifiers. So we're still gonna have sort of the same thing where like once you get a good ranking, you stay on that good ranking, at least for these events. But
Yeah.
also the other ones have open qualifiers. I know all of the Sky Esports events have open qualifiers, and both of the Yalla events have open qualifiers. So probably a lot of the ESL events are gonna have that as well, and I think at least 2 of the Blast events also do that. So we're still gonna have pretty good opportunity to go up and down, so to speak, throughout the ranking. I
Hmm.
think a lot of people are overblowing it right now. They say like, "Oh, it was supposed to be an open circuit, but now it's just a closed circuit once again." It's like, no, because we actually know now that the Valve ranking is a lot more reactive than we thought it was. So playing smaller events is going to actually be able to put you up into that top 16 range where you start getting invites to these big events if you do well there. And teams who do consistently get invited into top 16 events, well, the more they lose, they are going to fall out and somebody has to replace them. So we are probably still going to see a bit of rotation in that like 10 to 20 range, which is going to really dictate who plays tier 1 and who doesn't next year. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited. I think 2025 could be one of the more interesting years in Counter-Strike history, just because of the way these Valve rankings can really shake things up.
Mm.
Because we've had what now 4 years of the same top events, and like I'm not necessarily saying that some of them are going to fall out, but some of them are going to fall out. Like maybe the replacements aren't even better, but like somebody's going to fall out. Like I think a team like Virtus Pro sitting top 7 is going to hang pretty dangerous next year if they put up the same level of performance. They might fall out of top 16. Teams like Complexity and Falcons, who probably only hang on because of like partner invites and stuff, they might fall out. And teams like Liquid, who managed to completely rebuild their roster and still make it back into top 10 level, they would probably have fallen out during those rebuilds and had to fight their way up through smaller events and open qualifiers. So yeah, a lot of really interesting stuff could happen. Someone like Big is probably going to fall out of the top 40 at that point because they are going to play fucking nothing. But yeah.
Yeah, interesting. I hope that we see... I think the most important part for me is that the teams that grind all year round in Tier 2 actually just get opportunities that don't involve the most ridiculous open qualifier runs just to go play. Like fighting out over like 128 other teams in like BO1s just to get a chance to be the one team that qualifies for a real event. That's the really frustrating part when you follow Tier 2.
Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to avoid, realistically. I really hope they can do it. It'd be fun to see. Like, you know, rosters like, maybe it's a bad example based on their current, like they've had a few off weeks, but like a team like TSM actually go to an event just because they have beaten fucking everyone for like a month period straight in Tier 2. Maybe get a real opportunity to go play a LAN with all the events going over each other.
Also means there's going to be no fuckery about invites. Like Johnny Speeds can finally get invited to the biggest Tier 2 events. Because realistically, they are ranked highly enough to get a playoff invite to all of the CCT events. But CCT just decide that, actually, no, we're not going to invite Johnny Speeds. And I've actually looked into this. There's no fucking reason. Like, who decides who gets CCT invited? They just go off vibes. Like, there is... Johnny Speeds, they don't have a ban. They don't have a CCT ban. That's apparently not at all true. Because if they did, they would have told them. Because they have told other people when they are banned. They have not told Johnny Speeds anything about that. I did ask Project G. They were previously out of it. They didn't get CCT invites. And then one day it just showed up. Like, they were like, yeah, we complained for a while. They didn't listen to us at all. And then one day I just got a DM and we got an invite. And that was it. So... they go off of vibes. They literally they have no reason not to invite Johnny Speeds. They just decide not to, and fucking, they can't do that anymore. So that's another interesting thing. You know, every invite's going to be fair. There's going to be no more evil geniuses hogging IEM spots just because they have a partner spot, despite going out last every time.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun, but at the same time, you know, eyes peeled. Let's see how this fuckery unfolds. I know some people have already voiced their suspicion that it sounds too good to be true. Hopefully it ends up going well. But all right, let's move on to the Eternal Shuffle. There's been a few roster changes. Nothing too huge, but a big one for me. Ents have dropped Cuban basically as they're about to go play some events. Like mid-event, basically, he's dropped, or in between events, he's dropped. I don't know the exact timeline off the top of my head. But no, okay, it's just before they go to Pro League, pretty much. He's been dropped after they failed to make it to the RMR, and they failed to make it past Young Ninjas in the Thunder Pick World Championship close qualifier.
I thought the timing was hilarious. I thought the timing was they bench him the day after Young Ninjas beats him. Like,
dude, it was Friday. I was recording the double swing. I literally picked Ents. Then, as that was being recorded, they lost to Young Ninjas, and then, like, a bit later, they lost Cuban. I was like, what's going on with this roster, man?
They also lose to teams they really shouldn't lose to. They lose to Koi and Unity in the close qualifier. Honestly, even the Monty loss, that's worse than it should be, considering, you know, that's your old team, your old players. So I think I respect Kuban a lot, and I think they spoke about like the reasoning, which kind of makes sense. He just didn't, you know, him and Glaive probably just don't really click. Like, that's what they said. Like, his vision for the game doesn't really align itself with our players, which is Glaive. And I think I always thought that was a little bit of a weird mix to see Glaive and Kuban, but it worked out for a bit. Now it doesn't work out. I think he's going to find a new team and it's going to be good. I think they are going to find a new coach and it might be good, depending on if Glaive vibes with him. But yeah, I think it's a logical reaction to the level of performance they've had recently, because they have also changed players. They've changed A lot of things. So yeah, I think it makes sense.
Yep. Hopefully it can work out because they've been playing. They've just been getting slowly worse and worse. To be fair, they had to keep changing the roster. But no, they've been with Pody and SDY 3 months. I was hoping they'd find a new floor. They really haven't. It keeps getting worse. So let's try and fix this.
Glaive has actually been here longer than anyone else on the Sands lineup.
Yeah.
He is this is more than NIP levels of fuckery.
So no,
in
they
terms
need
of revolving door.
Yeah, they need to find a new coach that works, and also, honestly, maybe in the short term, a roster that actually can be kept together. All right, next one.
Yeah.
Chauzy has benched himself, I guess, from Johnny Speeds. What's the story here? You're the expert on Sweden.
Yeah, he's just left. He left for personal reasons, which he didn't want to elaborate on when we asked. He part of our little hour compilation. He lists him as having very low hours, which is true. He's obviously taking a big break. I think he was. I think he. I mean, as to the reason why he left, I think maybe he just wanted a break. Maybe he just didn't feel like this was vibing. Maybe he felt like, I want to try something else. So he kind of took a bit of time off, and he's hungry again. He went out and said, for my next team, I want to be op and IGL, which is interesting. He has opt in the past, and he basically said that, like, I have opt for 2 teams in the past, and like I really vibe with that role. And now that I've played like basically every position on planet Earth, I know that opping is what I want to do. As for IGLing, I think that's interesting. He basically said, I've played with a lot of different IGLs, and I've really figured out like this is what a good IGL is, and I think I can be that. And honestly, when someone we do kind of lack IGLs, and I think more and more Swedish players transitioning into the IGL role is starting to kind of work out. Like, we have ZTR, LNZ, Kriyas just led a team which probably shouldn't be in the RMR to the RMR. Like, more and more, a couple of these players are emerging, and I'm kind of happy if we could see more of that. Like, I would kind of, I would think that was cool, but I also think it's very, very ambitious to go. I want to try both opping and IGLing, the latter of which I have never done in my next team, which is it feels like it's kind of setting Chauzy up for really failing in his next team.
It's so dumb. Okay, I need to now express my opinions on this quickly, because yes, we have had some successful IGLs actually come out of Sweden recently. Most of them have had to fuck off out of Sweden because Sweden's got this obsession with shit AWP IGLs. Just to put it bluntly, just shit AWP IGLs who are bad at both, pretty much. And he's decided, I'm going to join that fucking list. Why? The idea that at 19 years old, having played with 2 or 3 IGLs, he can now figure out what... No, come on, bro. Just go AWP. Just go AWP. The hubris. It's frustrating. And yeah, the guys who have been successful IGLs who've been kicked out of Sweden, essentially had to go international, did it for a long time in academy systems with coaches, and then had to struggle their way through, find opportunities, and then make it work. It wasn't just like, guys, I'm going to go AWP IGL for a real team now. Like, bro, stop with the stupid stuff.
Speaking of stuff, and Eternal Shuffle, this is live on air. Just now, eyeballers have benched Pepsor and Golden, which means I need to go AWOL for a bit while I write this article. So you carry the show for a while. You can talk about Golden and Pepsor being benched.
I can, really quickly.
Yeah, that's the next item.
Right, next item on the Eternal Shuffle. Thrown in there, because this wasn't on here at all.
It just fucking happened.
This wasn't even slightly on here. This was hinted at. Pepsor's been really shit. I'm going to be blunt about it. His time on Eyeballs has been mediocre. To be fair, most of everyone's time on Eyeballs has been mediocre. The team has been really mid for a long time. But he specifically, as a player, we all kind of got excited about. Like, he was in the Fnatic Academy, and he looked okay as an aggressive rifler. But nothing has ever worked for him, really, on Eyeballers. I think for the entirety of the actual time he spent on that roster, he's been a 1.01 rated player. The team doesn't win a lot. Like, it's just been grim. So that makes sense. Golden being benched. is a bit curious because now I've got to figure out who the hell I actually want calling on this roster. I've got a bad feeling it's going to revert to JW. And then we're back in the same shitty boat with Sweden we always are. Like, is he a great AWP? No. Is he a good IGL? Not particularly, but he's both on our team. The frustration continues. One thing I can be excited about is that, like, I've seen in the last like week or so, Poise had some good matches. I thought he might be squandered on this team when they promoted him and they took away a lot of his preferred roles or the way he wanted to play. Like, I mean, not that he expressed that he wanted to play, but the way he played prior to being in this roster was changed. He wasn't taking the risks he normally was allowed to take. He had to do a lot of sitting behind flashing for great riflers like Golden and fucking JW to go take the fights he was taking before. And obviously that went catastrophically. His numbers went into the shitter, and Eyeballers didn't win a damn thing. Match-wise, not even event-wise. So, no, this team's needed changes for a long time. Step one was bringing in Poi for Shine, was it, initially? No, it was for Sapek at that point.
Sapek, yeah. Sapek left for Metasport. Sapek initiated that change, so that was more out of necessity than it was they wanted to do it. I think they wanted to keep Sapek, I believe they said. But yeah, Sapek initiated that move.
So, yes, essentially replacing Sapek. But even then, the team needed more changes to actually be good. It was just a nice thing to see happen. Like, they bring in a pretty young kid. But I'm very frustrated with Eyeballs, have been for a while. To be honest, I'm frustrated with most Swedish teams. Party Astronauts have cut Sexy, CXCI, and...
I think it's called 6C, actually.
And Wolfie. So they're now just Benley, Infinite, and Fang. This comes after them missing out on Atlanta.
Both also just they decided to leave more than being cut because they figured, Jesus Christ, I have better chances of making the major in another team than this team.
Right. More importantly,
even despite being in the easiest region.
they missed out on Atlanta, losing to Nouns and Wildcards. They missed out on the RMR because they lost in the close qualifier to Nouns and Fluffy Aimers. So they are not in a good place as a roster. 60 Wolfie gone. And actually, I believe at least one of them has ended up on Fluffy Aimers, right? No, I'm going crazy. That was a different match I was watching. I just got them conflated. But no, they are players who I don't have that much like faith in, to be completely honest. I mean, Wolfie, he had okay sort of runs in Europe with Ecstatic, with Lingby Vikings, I believe the roster was called before then. But nothing too significant. Like, he wasn't a superstar. So no. That roster's changed. They got 2 blanks. It's Grim. I'm not sure who they're going to bring in. Maybe it is Grim once he gets cut, if he ever gets cut. So that sucks. In good news, in great news, in news we all wanted to hear, Elevate have cut their entire cunty roster. Round of applause. Yep. My God, were those people assholes? If you ever saw the leaks behind the scenes of the things they like to share online, the way they like to approach conversation, they're just cunts. So them being cut, no one's going to cry about it, and they don't deserve much more airtime. So finally, the biggest thing, like in terms of the number of moves happening this week, is Fireflux being announced. So this is apparently a roster that was already together for a while. It's mostly like a Turkish team, but isn't actually a full Turkish team. Like, the hint being Banjo, who is... Yeah, I mean, unless there's a bunch of secret Turks with names like Matias Kivistö, I don't think he's Turkish. So they'll be speaking English, but the roster is Skrunk, Paz, Sensei, Banjo, Soulfly. Some names you'll definitely recognize if you've been following Tier 2. Maybe some of you with good memories will even remember Paz from his times back on Space Soldiers. Like, he's been around the block. But it's a roster that I kind of like. Banjo and Soulfly. Soulfly especially, I think, was pretty good on the Sangl roster. Well, the versions he played with, which weren't overall great rosters, but he was a good player. Bringing in Scrunk, I believe, to call is not the worst idea. He's had decent runs as a caller before, but he's just not a great fragger. So I think this team's going to be severely limited in firepower, especially when you combine that with Paz, who's been a weak fragger recently, and Sensei, who somehow keeps getting signed to teams despite every HLTV game I've ever seen him play being very mid, to be generous. So here we are. It's a roster. It's not going to be very good, I don't think. But I'm probably going to watch an occasional game or two because of Soulfly. That's the long and the short of it for them, I think.
I think Soulfly and Banjo are the interesting parts of this, for sure. But yeah, it's an interesting. They stuck together for a while. They were playing as Mixusulol in a lot of these. I think they played ESA. I think they actually played ESA Advanced, and they did all right. They did for a couple of months. They always showed up in every open qualifier and everything. So I think they're still a fairly decently prepared team, but they managed to find an organization which seems, I think it's a new org. I've never heard of these guys, and I think I saw some people talking about like, oh, this is like a new founding,
Yeah, they
a
don't
new
have a
founded thing.
logo, so I'm pretty sure they're very new.
Yeah, no, I mean just in general, I don't think they've been in other games either necessarily. So I think, yeah, interesting for them. I think they have the caliber players to make stuff happen in like a CCT layer. I think depending on how their advanced campaign has gone and will go, if they're in playoffs, they might even break into Challenger League. But I say tentatively. But yeah, I like the players. Soulfly and Banjo, very interesting. I think there's even good stuff you could get out of players like Pass and Skrunk as well. Maybe not, a super high level, but you could get some stuff out of them. And Sensei is a bit, yeah, he's very mid.
Yeah,
Aggressively mid.
Not a very promising roster in terms of the fragging in most spots. But yeah, we'll see what they can do.
Chemistry plays a big part as well, so let's see what happens. I mean, look, there was a fucking Sangal roster a couple of years ago in 2020, which was doing fuck all, but they were like, they had nobody who was worth anything. It was the full Turkish one, the one that Sensei came into, if you remember. Let me actually check it out right now, because I'm forgetting what this roster was. It would have been the one with Meyer, Paz, Engine, Logic Man, and Emor, which is not exactly a roster which inspired, a lot of hype. I mean, it inspired a lot of hype because it's the Space Soldiers guys, but it didn't exactly fill anybody with a crap ton of hope. But they actually played all right. I think they even made it pretty damn far in some LAN event. It said they had a LAN top 4. What the fuck was that? Oh, it's a Turkish championship. Never mind.
Yeah, not get too excited about
yeah,
that.
then Sensei comes in to replace Logic Man, and actually no, he actually replaced Emor to begin with, but eventually ends up being Logic Man who leaves, and he was kind of crap. Yeah. Yeah, he's aggressive. He was somehow more mid than Logic Man, who is already not particularly good in terms of talking about Sensei.
Yeah, no, he's a player. He's got 2 hands and a pair of eyes, and he's there, but not going to do a whole lot with it. That's the problem. That's really the issue.
Yeah.
So no, mid as fuck roster. Let's go talk about prospects of the week, because we know they're not mid. They're pretty good. So I'm going to let you lead off here, because this is a really weird event, guys. Quack had the option to pick like 2 different Swedes, and he didn't.
That's true. This is true. The rumors are correct. I've chosen to pick Amsalem as my prospect of the week, who plays for Drillas, OhnePixel's team. He's the one guy out of here who isn't really particularly known, but he has played. He's kind of one of those guys who has bounced around Israeli scene. For a while, he was in Nom. He played in that kind of team. He played for the Israeli national team in the ISF stuff. Pretty much it. I don't know, but I'm assuming he has had sort of the similar kind of trajectory that a lot of Israeli players do, with like military, like obligatory military service can really disrupt your career in like your late teenage years. I don't know if that's actually true for him. Maybe that doesn't apply to him for some reason, but he is exactly in that sort of age range where the same kind of level where players like Nerds were before, where like they had no tenure, but at 21, or 22 around there, they start showing up because they are finally free of like the shackles of societal obligations, and they just go absolutely cracked. He's a crack player. He played well with this Drillas guys this week, and I've heard a lot of very good stuff about him who know him better than I do. So I'm gonna pick him as my prospect of the week.
Okay. Yeah, I can't say I've watched a single second of him play. I'm just going to be honest. Because I didn't really watch too many of the games from the Middle East qualifier for the Asia RMR. But that's cool. Hopefully it's legit for him, but at the same time, hopefully they don't do too well in the Asia RMR. As I've expressed before, I don't think that'd be particularly great. My pick is one of those Swedes. He's a Swede over abroad. I like to call him Suspicious P, but it's Susp. Guy who, had to kind of find a new home after Metasport decided to throw away everything they were working on and completely shit the bed. So he was taken in by wildcard alongside his Swedish brethren, Fuzi, and since then they've pretty much stomped the NA scene. It was already a roster that had, how do I put this, like 3 core pieces that everyone would want. In Stanislaw, a real IGL, Jaber, a real prospect, and Sonic, a real solid player, especially for the region. But, he's had decent showings, like solid showings internationally. Like, I'm not going to pretend he's some superstar internationally, but he's had all right performances. But domestically, pretty beastly. This roster now is, compared to any competition. They absolutely smashed a couple qualifiers, I believe, this week to make it through to, firstly, Atlanta, but also, I think, to make it through to the NA RMR. I think they had to qualify for that. I'm not sure they were invited. Maybe that was last week. But more importantly, yes, they made Atlanta. And they... Oh, no, yeah, that qualifier was this week. Okay, good. So, no. Not that big a name in terms of the opposition they played. We're talking like Hardy Astronauts, Boss, Ex-Olos Laser, Mythic, and 2 series against NRG, which is really the test, I think, for them, is to just consistently be better than NRG, because they do have a couple players I think are not terrible, in guys like Hext and Automatic. So a good pair of wins.
Even just since the Swedes came to America, they've played NRG 5 times and they've won 4 out of them with this game.
Yeah, so they've had a really good showing against probably the 5th best team in NA, I'd say, NRG are.
Yep.
If we still count Liquid and Complexity as 1-2, in whatever order, depending on the day of the week, really, how good Elige is.
Yeah.
Number 3, it's between M80 and this wildcard for 3-4. That's kind of the battle there. I currently have wildcard at 3. But then I guess, NRG at 5 makes sense. So no, took care of business, and Susp was immense. I mean, for this roster, he's played a number of roles since coming in terms of his actual play. Like, he's been very trade heavy at sometimes, entry heavy. But in this week, he got to take a lot of opening fights, won them, and that was huge. Kick-started a lot of rounds, gained a lot of impact, and was able to flex his basically superior understanding of the game over a slightly weaker region. But going to be really fun to watch this team at Pro League. I have picked them as my underdog for Group B, so I'm going to be following them. Hopefully they can get it done on LAN as a new roster. Going to be a challenge for sure, especially with the opening game of Spirit, but I'm going to be there the entire way. So big up Suspicious P. I think it'd be a great
Do you know how he got that nick?
Name. I have no idea how he got the nick. Do you?
Susp is a Swedish word for, what the fuck do you call it? The cup that hockey players has around their dick and balls.
It's called a cup.
Yeah.
Oh.
Is it just called a cup?
Yeah, we call it a cup.
Yeah, here it's called a suspensoir, or susp for short. So that's literally how he got that name. I think he said that somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
What a name. Clearly obsessed with his defensive duties. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Oh man, what a name. I didn't realize that. I honestly had never thought about it. Most of the time I read a player's a name and I don't think twice about what that's supposed to mean. But no, let me
I
check
think a
it.
lot of people assume it's something about like the suspect or something, which is like
Yeah, or
like
like
a
suspicious. That's why I call him
name.
Suspicious P, you know, like Sus P. Like,
Yeah,
but no,
it's always been about a cup.
he's a dick
Dick and balls.
protector. That's what he is.
Yeah, exactly.
What a legend. But all right, on that incredibly mature adult note, let's wrap up the show. Leave a like, leave a comment telling us why we're wrong, as always. We love to see that. Sub if you want to see more content. And remember, members are better, so they get more content. $2 a month, become a member, and get all that bonus stuff. And yeah, that's it. We'll see you. Well, I'll probably release the episode next Friday, but we'll record it on next Sunday, but I'll record it on Friday because I'll be away. So thank you all for watching. We'll see you in the next one.